Good evening, and welcome to Hello It's Us, Perspectives on Inclusion. Hello It's Us, Perspectives on Inclusion is dedicated to educating the general public about issues that are of interest to the disability community. And as you view the program, you'll see that these are issues that are important to all of us because people with disabilities certainly are an important fabric within our community. Hello It's Us is brought to you through a collaboration between the University of Iowa Center for Disabilities and Development, our friends at Uptown Bill's Coffee Shop, and the good people at Public Access TV. My name is Mike Hoenig. I work at the University of Iowa Center for Disabilities and Development, and I serve as a co-host for Hello It's Us. Keith?
Hello, I'm Keith Ruff, the other co-host. I am retired now, writing a book and doing activism with disabled wherever I can.
Well, speaking of activism and advocacy, we've come to the right place here, Keith, because
Yes.
we are honored to be once again filming on site at Access to Independence of the Eastern Iowa Corridor, based in Iowa City. Their entire staff is here once again with us to talk more about their services and some of the work that they do that we were not able to cover during our first segment with them. What I'd like to do is ask them to reintroduce themselves and just share a little bit about their background. So we'll once again start up here with Leah and work our way through the staff.
Thank you, Mike. It's been a pleasure, and we're happy to be back. I'm Leah Donald. I'm the Executive Director here at Access to Independence. I've actually worked at the center for about 1.5 years now, so not very long, but I have spent my entire career working in the field of disability. I have personal and professional experience in disability, and I just am very pleased to be here and to serve Johnson and Lynn and the surrounding communities with our Center for Independent Living.
Great.
My name is Kirsten Onaga, and I'm an independent living specialist. I've been here at A2I for about 1.5 years. The same, Leah and I came at the same time, so we're learning the ropes together. Personally, I guess when it comes to disabilities, I, like I said before, lived outside of this country for a while and was able to see how other people in different countries don't treat people with disabilities with as much respect as they should, and it kind of got me motivated to come back here and fight the good fight to help people be equals in the eyes of everybody. So
Excellent. Taylor?
Yeah, hi, I'm Taylor Gray, and I am also an independent living specialist here at A2I, and like I said last time, I really, started having a focus on the independent living movement as when I grew up in a small rural Midwest town, and just having difficulty finding resources in the community and really kind of connecting people, and it really pushed me towards the independent living movement and public health and policy and things like that. And so, I'm excited to be here.
Great, thank you. Don?
I'm Don Mitchell, and I'm an independent living specialist at Access to Independence. Just finished up my 2nd year here at the center, but I've been in the movement now for over 17 years.
Awesome. All right. Well, at the end of our first segment, we were just getting into a great discussion about peer counseling. For those that may be new, this is one of the services that Access to Independence and all Centers for Independent Living provide that is based on the premise that people with disabilities are the best at supporting other people with disabilities because we've been there, done that, and can provide support to those people who may be struggling with a disability-related or other type of issue. And Leah had just given an overview, and I believe we were going to hear from, you said each of the independent living specialists here have some work that they do within peer counseling, is that?
That's correct. Do you want to start with Don?
Sure.
Share with the microphone.
I started a group recently. It's been within the last 8 weeks. We have a consumer who's blind, and before losing his vision, he was a very social person, and he was finding himself to be very isolated in his new apartment. And so we started a group at the apartment complex where he lives. We meet twice a month, and right now we're only averaging like 3 or 4 people per week.
Mm-hmm.
But he's starting to build relationships with his neighbors, and he's starting to get out more. We've got him in another group in the disability community up in Cedar Rapids. He's started going to PADS, and I'm sure you've heard of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got him working on some other issues with his disabilities, so he's going to even be attending some other groups in that. So we're kind of excited for him because we're seeing him transition from being totally dependent on us for assistance to starting to get out and move around the community on his own.
That's very exciting. So you kind of have a little bit of both going on, right? You created a group, but then you also helped him connect with other peers, so you're not having to do all of the coaching or all of the supporting, which is...
Yeah, and he's having a hard time dealing with that right now, but I think as he starts getting more and more involved in the community, he's going to find that he doesn't need me as much.
Great.
That's the idea.
Yep.
It is.
Okay.
Well, I think we were gonna hear from Taylor and Kirsten. I knew I was gonna do that sooner or later. Kirsten, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, so another group, or groups I guess, that we have is the Expressive Arts Group. And so I lead that twice a month. So there's one, it's the first Tuesday of every month at Uptown Bill's, and normally the fourth Friday of every month at our place, which is an extension of NAMI, Iowa, or the Johnson County NAMI, I should say. So the hours and information is all on our website, and updated information if anything changes. But basically, we just get together like Leah was saying last time, that it's really a safe meeting space where an art project is given out, where we can just all work on it. Supplies are included, and it's a time for people to socialize and just catch up on what's going on with everyone, and just spend time together, which is nice. And sometimes it's nice to just sit and focus on some kind of simple and creative task.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And if I can brag on Taylor for a minute.
Oh.
Taylor is an artist. I've seen her work. And I think Taylor really brings to the table that idea that expressing yourself is therapeutic.
It is.
And I think that we can look at it as just an art project, or we can look at it as a way to build up our relationships, to understand ourselves, and to feel at ease in our own skin. And I think that Taylor really embraces that and brings a beautiful expression to the groups that she runs. And then and Kirsten we were talking a little earlier about, or I should say the last episode, about going into other counties, and she saw an opportunity in Washington County, and much like Don's situation, well, this is an opportunity for us to create a group here. There was a need she saw, and I'll let you talk a little bit about Crafts with Kirsten.
We created a group at Choices, which is the mental health drop-in center in Washington, Iowa. And the group is called Crafts with Kirsten. I'm really focused on letting the people that attend that decide what we do throughout the whole thing. So when I go there, we not only do the project that they've decided, but we go into what do we want to do next month, and we pick and choose. And then it's really kind of awesome to see people asking other people for help. They don't ask me for help. They ask their community that's there on a project, on a craft. If they're not able to get the job done, they'll say like, hey, can you help me with this? I need a little help with this. And it's just amazing watching people do that. That happens once a month, every second Tuesday of the month up there. So it's a fun time had by all.
Sounds like it.
Okay. This is a different kind of question, but I feel it's very important. What is the office doing to bring the younger generation into independent living?
Yeah, that is a really important question. And I was gonna pass that to Kirsten because Kirsten's been pretty instrumental in helping us as an organization to connect with more young people. It's been one of the goals of the independent living movement for some time to continue to bring in young people to be self-advocates, to be leaders. And Kirsten's going to talk a little bit about our internship program.
So when I came here, I saw that there was an opportunity for us to have interns for one of two reasons. Number one, it would bring people in. Number two, we would get some help, which obviously we're not a big group, so any help we get is much appreciated. So I decided to contact the different schools in the area, Cedar Rapids at Mount Mercy and here at the University of Iowa, to see whether or not they would be interested in partnering with us to have interns come in. And specifically in the social work departments, only because I'm a social worker and so I kind of have connections that way. But they jumped on board and they were like, yes, and we've been able to have interns come in who are, still in college, and my hope is that we plant some kind of seed in their little brains to make it grow, and hopefully they'll want to continue on and help with the movement. I also want to just inform everybody that we've had 5 interns, and 2 of those 5 interns themselves have had disabilities, and so we really when they told us that they did, we were like, awesome, come help us. That because that's what we hear. It's people with disabilities helping people with disabilities. So they kind of were nervous to tell us, but once they did, we were like, that's okay, come and we'll do what we can to help you. So
I was really impressed. I noticed that both Keith and I serve on the ADA Celebration Planning Committee, and you had 2 very active interns on that committee last year. I myself, and I'm sure you, Keith, we had our internships, and gosh, sometimes they were kind of frustrating because you didn't really feel like you were getting to do a lot. So it seemed like you really put them to work once.
we try. We really try. We try to give them as much experience as they possibly can.
Positive the way of furthering visibility of the disabled movement.
Absolutely.
We've touched on a lot of programs. We certainly talked about the services that you provide, and we talked about some of the peer groups and the internship program. Now, have we missed any? Are there any other things in terms of programs, supports that you'd like to highlight, or do you think we've hit them all?
I think that we've hit the majority. I think working with each individual that comes to Access to Independence, we deal with individuals. And so the services that one person receives are going to be unique to that person. We recently, actually, as far as programs, we signed a contract with vocational rehab to do some job development. And that is something that we're looking at expanding in the future. It's kind of small scale right now, but helping individuals look for and achieve a position in the community and equal pay for a fair wage is really, really important, and it definitely meets our mission, meets our goal of making sure people are empowered and able to be part of their community. And so that's been something neat that we've been starting, and we're learning about that. We hope that it grows and expands. We work with a lot of individuals. Like I said, I think that the majority of the time that we spend, if we're not involved in community activities, we're working one-on-one or in groups with individuals that are coming to us and are asking us to support them to remove a barrier or to get over a barrier so that they can go along and be independent in their lives. So yeah, we've, as a group, we've grown a lot. I think we all mentioned that we've all been here for, Don's the one that has the most months in, but we're all pretty new here, and that includes our board. Everyone on our board is fairly new as well. So we're really open and looking for opportunities to partner, for opportunities to sign new contracts and serve our community better. We're serving 8 counties and we have 4 people. It certainly helps to have volunteers, and we have some great volunteers. It's helpful to have interns. It's helpful to have members of the board actively involved. But the more that we can cooperate with the community and form relationships, the better off that we will be.
As you're doing right now.
We are.
Yeah.
We are.
On some of your projects, do you ever partner with local CIO?
Yeah, we sure do. As you know, and maybe the audience doesn't, but there's actually 6 centers.
Yes.
6 centers for independent living in Iowa, which is fantastic. The flip side of that is that unfortunately we have 99 counties in Iowa, and only 32 are covered by sills. And that's a little bit frustrating for us because as we get a lot of calls from people outside of our region, we do the best that we can to help them by providing resources and information over the phone. But we're only funded for the 8 counties that we have. But we certainly don't turn people away and say, sorry. We do what we can to make sure that we're at least pointing them in the right direction. But it's really important that we do partner with the other CILs because there's strength in unity. We are stronger together every single time. We have 6 great centers. We have, we are getting together quarterly for, we have a separate association, the Iowa Statewide Independent Living. And that is really the 6 centers together as our own advocacy group, and we can come together and discuss issues and to better educate each other about what we're seeing, and then potentially form opportunities for growth.
That's great.
If I remember correctly, when I was working with the cell in the group itself, the biggest problem in Iowa is the rural areas.
Yeah.
We could never touch everyone.
You're absolutely right, Keith. We still see that, especially in the northern part of Iowa. There's no CIL that covers a lot of those counties,
Right.
and yeah, that's just an unfortunate situation right now. We certainly hope in the future that we could receive funding or somehow be able to touch those counties.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of something I was going to ask you earlier and didn't get to, but it shows that, one of the things that I think has been clear is that we have a lot of gaps to fill, just in terms of geographically for CILs. But are there other kinds of services that you think that ought to be provided, even in this community, that you aren't, that we're really falling short?
Yeah, and Keith asked about attendant care. And we find that is a really, it's a common concern that we're faced with. A lot of folks certainly could live in the community, certainly want to live in the community, but they need those supports.
Yes.
They need to have someone to maybe come in and assist with meals, assist with transportation. And so we think that, I would say from my perspective, and you can all disagree if you like, but having access to personal care attendants is one of the biggest gaps that we see. Access to housing is a big gap area. We see, I would say, maybe a third or more of our referrals that come to us, or our individual calls that come to us are looking for housing. They want assistance with finding a place for them that's not only accessible but affordable. And in Johnson County, that can be a real barrier. It's a barrier anywhere. And it's a barrier in the rural counties where there's just, the agency support isn't there. Transportation is a huge barrier. We have some great transportation resources here. And I really appreciate what they're doing with seeds here in Johnson County, and there's some other initiatives that are moving to improve that situation, but we see that as a big barrier too. We do our best to meet people out in the community. Like I mentioned, we're often going out and about. I would say our calendars are full of not just community engagement, but often one-on-one appointments with individuals that are looking for any one of our services. So we try to meet people, whether they're comfortable in their home, whether it be in a public space like the library. We're more than happy to meet someone at another space because they can't necessarily get to our office.
This is an idea for your office, and I've gone lately to working with agencies that come into my home, but I do notice the importance of their help. They seem to take anyone that says yes. And it's very difficult to train someone that has never been near a disabled person. So that may be an idea to percolate.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm on my third agency in 2 years.
That's frustrating.
It is.
Thank you for sharing that.
We just actually yesterday over at the Center for Disabilities and Development went with two sophomores here at Iowa that have started their own agency for matching primarily college students with personal assistance, but they're looking to kind of expand. And so we sent them your way, so hopefully they will be getting in touch and talking.
We'd be glad to talk to them.
Dawn, we wanted to ask you a question, and anybody can chime in here. I mean, the ADA passed in 1990, and there's been a lot of talk recently about amendments to weaken it, something called the ADA Education Act that would put the burden of proof on people with disabilities to prove that something was not accessible. So, that's caused a lot of us, I think, to reflect back on how far have we come with since the passage of the ADA. And Dawn, I know you've been in the biz, so to speak, now for a number of years. So I'd be curious to get your perspective, and please, anyone else that would want to join in. But I'd like to start with Dawn and get your perspective on how you think things have changed, and how concerned are you about this new ADA Education Act amendment?
Well, I'd like to start with the ADA Education and Reform Act, which is House Resolution 620. And since 2001, the Congress of the United States has been trying to pass some form of amendment or ADA notification bill. This bill, which was introduced in January of 2017, if you support it, it's supported by businesses that signed onto the bill and feel that they have been hurt by a loophole that punishes them for not being compliant with the ADA 27 years after it's an enactment. This will also set precedents because the first time in history a protected class would have to provide notification of their intent to exercise their civil rights. No other protected class has ever had to do this for public accommodations. And number three, they would put restrictions on more than 56.7 million people with disabilities and would impede their ability to engage in daily activities and participate in mainstream society. This is I just don't understand why after 27 years they want to do this.
Yeah.
Some of the things that have happened since the passage of the ADA, which are positive, include curb cuts, increased access to public transportation, service animals are now more accepted by the public, there's more civic and social engagement amongst the disability community, expanded employment opportunities for people with disabilities, and it's given a stronger voice for the world's largest minority, because now they are getting out there and speaking out for their rights. The news media is more likely to cover disability stories than they were years ago, and it helps to prevent discriminatory action or retaliation against people with disabilities. I think that we're going to continue to see strides made in the enforcement of the ADA, but I think that these kind of bills like the ADA Notification Act that we talked about is just going to impede and turn back the rights of people with disabilities, and I think it's the wrong way to go. I don't think people with disabilities should be punished for something that they're not responsible for.
Well, I think with more of us getting through college, there'll be more younger people speaking up.
Boy, I don't know, Keith. I think that's we could have a whole nother discussion on that with all of you all. But I think one of the concerns, I was just at a conference, and one of the things that lots of people were concerned about, lots of people that have been in the movement for a long time, is that people haven't had to fight through some of the things that we've had to fight through to get services.
That's a good point.
So,
They feel comfortable.
So
Yeah.
hopefully, people, I think you've got a great situation, because Don, obviously you're very, very well versed in this issue, and hopefully I know that the three of you are younger, so hopefully, and it seems like you're all very passionate, which is great. So hopefully that, that passion will, that you'll be able, as this happens, that you're, certainly have the energy and the commitment to speak out. But I think this is why mentorship is so important, because people have had a lot of services and supports that we didn't have growing up, and so I'm glad that you kind of have different age groups represented here, so that can kind of be carried on to the next generation.
Right, yeah.
Not that you're going anywhere soon, Don, but
Right.
so.
Yeah, and I just wanted, I've had an opportunity to brag on the other two, and I just really appreciate Don for his advocacy. He brings it to another level, and he's definitely taught us. I know I've learned a great deal from Don. As you can tell, he does his homework.
Yep.
He's always prepared, and he knows his stuff. And yeah, it's been a real treat to learn from Don. And yeah, one of the things I love about our team is that we represent a lot of decades here, a lot of different generations, and it's been it creates a lot of interesting, diverse conversations. And when we were talking about the ADA prior to the show, we mentioned that we kind of have lived. We are Generation ADA. We've lived in it, and Don and you and others have remember when it wasn't that way. And I think it's so important for us to make sure that we're telling the stories.
Yeah, you bet.
And yeah, that's part of the reason why we're here.
Yes, and with that, we're going to have, this is just zoomed by, but we're at the end of our second segment. We really want to thank all of you, Leah and Kirsten and Taylor and Don, for taking all of this time with us. I want to thank our sponsors, of course, and our viewers for hanging in there with us, and hopefully it's been as informative for all of you as it has for us. So we want to thank all of you, and hope you'll tune in next week.
Thank you, Mike and Keith. It's been a pleasure.
Have a good week out there. Bye now.